Welcome back to episode 13 of the Pink Juice Pod. I can't believe we're on 13 episodes already. I am so happy I've managed to get 13. I don't think I will ever run out of things to say about dating and relationships, genuinely, because I see this podcast evolving so much. And today's episode, I am going to be talking about the benefits, the positives of dating. And the reason I wanted to record this episode, because I just feel like the current dating climate, the current narrative around dating is that dating is the worst thing ever, that men are trash, men are shit. Every time I open like TikTok or Reddit or my social media, it's all so much negativity about dating. And I just want to bring a little bit of positivity into the dating world so that people can feel a little bit more inspired. So if you have recently been feeling down in the dumps about dating, you think it's shit, you can't be asked, and you're so full of negativity around it, I'm bringing this episode so I can give you some positivity, because dating is actually fucking amazing. And actually, the reason that I wanted to record this episode is because I had just the most beautiful connection and date recently. And I've actually got another date tonight after this. So, yeah, so I wanted to record this and just talk about the benefits of dating, because there's so freaking many. I'm just sick of this men are trash, we hate men, dating is shit narrative. Yes, there's a lot of shitty men, there's a lot of shitty people, there's a lot of shitty women, and I just cannot stand this whole men are shit narrative. I feel like women who constantly say that are the ones that are constantly attracting shit men. Like, I'm quite blessed. Like, I feel like I don't have that narrative. I genuinely think men are amazing. I love men. And for some reason, I keep seeming to attract really nice men into my life. So, yeah, I just want to focus on the benefits of dating, honestly, because there's so many, and I just want to pause that. I want to just pause that dating is shit, dating is horrible narrative, because it can be a great experience. And even those bad dates are actually there to teach us something, honestly. So, dating, every date that we go on, will probably teach you something. Even if it was an awful, terrible date, it will probably teach you something. And not every date has to be about finding your husband. Sometimes a date can just be like to have fun, to be spontaneous, to make a new friend or whatever. Um, and sometimes it's just about being a human being that craves connection, and you just want to connect because you've been feeling lonely for a while. So yeah. And I have reminded myself that recently that dating can be beautiful, because when you experience, don't get me wrong, bad dates are really good to learn from, but so are good dates as well, because I think with good dates, you it allows you to think about, I have been recently, what feeling I had during that day and what feeling I enjoyed during that date as well. And I think that's really important, and often we don't actually think about that. Is like, well, what did that date gave me that I then want going into the future? So, the first positive thing about dating, I think, is that dating gives you confidence, it gives you sexiness, and it gives you feminine energy. And the more you date, the more you have that. Like, I feel like the more I've been dating, the more like confident I'm becoming, the more sexy I'm becoming, the more feminine energy I have. And you know what's happening? I'm attracting good looking men, nice men, high value men, because I'm showing up differently. Whereas when I go back to the first phase of my dating, I was a shell of myself, and I was attracting men that were obviously not aligned, I didn't really connect with. I just felt really uncomfortable and not confident on these dates, shy, scared, for what reason? And now I'm just like, yeah, it's just another date. I'm just there to make a connection. If it happens, great. If not, great. I've learned something, and I can take that with me into the next date. And yeah, I think this is a huge benefit. When you start to date more and you do it more confidently, you start to dress differently, you do your hair, you do your makeup, like energetically, you get to show up with so much confidence, and you get to like practice that as well. Like, you can trial and error, you can experiment on dates, you can go on different kind of dates, wear different kind of clothes, and see what you feel good in, see what you don't feel good in. So it gives you that like confidence boost. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this outfit that I'm wearing right now, I've worn this on a few dates right now because I feel really confident. It's like a little bit spicy, but not too much. You know, it's nice. I look good. I feel confident. I feel good. I've had compliments from men about this outfit. And you know what the best thing is about dating different people? You can wear the same fucking outfit multiple times. That makes you feel confident going into that date because that man has not seen you in this outfit before. Another man has. And if it's worked with the previous man, well, why is it not going to work with this one? And if it doesn't, he's the problem, not me, because my outfit is banging. Um, just went off on a tangent then, but that's so true. And yeah, confidence is literally like a muscle. Like you have to train it, you have to practice. So the more dates you go on, the more nice outfits that you put on, the more like energetically you put into those dates, you will start to feel more confident and ultimately end up attracting the type of man that you desire. And feeling sexy isn't something about like a man, you can't feel sexy from validation. You have to embody being sexy. And yes, someone can meet you there and support you through that, but ultimately if you don't get yourself to a certain point where you're feeling sexy and confident, you're not embodying that, that person isn't going to meet you there. So, you know, for a man to meet you at a certain level of you're sexy, you're beautiful, you're confident girl, you have to embody that first. And you get that from practice and from confidence. And we're so, I feel like in the modern day, just disconnected from our bodies. Like we stress about work, we stress about finances, we stress about every single thing that a woman in her late 20s, early 30s, who is single and living on her own has to worry about surviving. It disconnects us from our bodies. And I feel like when you go on a date, you kind of have to leave that shit away. Like, you can't be looking at your phone, checking your work emails. You can't be worrying about what everyone else is doing. You have to, you know, be a little bit present, and things like dressing yourself up like really help with like pushing you out of that comfort zone and help you with that confidence. And I've noticed this about myself as well. Like, I actually enjoy going dating because I can't think about work. It's so rude for me to bring that into dating life. But I kind of like it because I know if I'm going on a date, I get to escape from my work life as well a little bit. So I do think there's an element of dating that brings you back into your body, especially when you are with someone and they do compliment you. They say you look beautiful, you look good. And you look amazing. And it's nice to hear those things, of course, but I do think in a certain way, as a woman, for a man to be like, wow, you have to embody that first because it's so obvious. Like, I've been on dates when men are feeling awkward, shy, not confident, and you feel it. You feel that energy. So the same goes for a man. And I feel like I'm making this incredible feminine version of myself alive when I'm going on a date because I do show up a little bit differently. Like, I'm not saying I don't show up authentically. In everything I do in my life, I try to show up as authentically as I can. But of course, you make a little bit more of an effort if you're going on a date than if you go on a meal with your mates or just on, you know, a coffee date. Of course, you're making a little bit more of an effort if you're going on a date with a man because everyone wants to impress people a little bit. And I think as a general, I think as a society, we are kidding ourselves by saying we don't want to impress people. Like, I don't necessarily feel like I'm going into a date with the sole person purpose to impress someone. But of course I don't want to look like shit. I want to look good because that gives me confidence. I want to do my makeup a little bit differently. Maybe put eyeshadow on when I wouldn't normally. Just little tweaks like that give me that little confidence boost, and then I can show up in that day, embodying that confidence and embodying that energy. And usually that leads to a better connection with the person. Okay, reason number two, the second benefit of dating is that it teaches you so much about yourself. Like, you cannot learn the things that dating teaches you from being single. You just cannot. That's a fact. Because dating gives you information, it gives you data, it gives you feedback, which you can then learn from. And in dating, you know, this is something I'm realizing as well recently. When I'm alone and not dating, not exposed to men, not exposed to connections, I'm craving safety. And I think a lot of women really do crave that safety as well. Like, I'd love to do a podcast episode on safety as well, which I probably will. But I don't know what that safety is, because maybe I haven't probably have not received it to full extent in my previous relationships. But if I'm not dating and I'm not exposed to men and their behaviors, how do I actually know what safety feels like? I don't. So you I get to feel that in your body, your intuition, your gut, how your body responds. And it takes a long time, I think, to learn to how to like feel into it. And I'm definitely not an expert. I feel like I only recently really thought about this, but you get to feel safe. Like, just even little things like I'm sure there's been times where as women you've probably been on a date and the guy wants to kiss you, you're not really feeling it, you're kind of kissing him, and it's just not, it doesn't feel it. And then there's other times where it just flows. There's no awkwardness, it's nice. And that's because safety was created. You feel safe to be vulnerable. And I don't know how much I want to talk about this just yet. I don't think I'm at the level of talking about intimacy just yet. But that then feeds into intimacy, and intimacy is so important in human connection. But yeah, too shy to talk about that. Too shy. Not there yet. Um, so yeah, it just teaches you a lot. And when you're exposed to different men, different people, different values, different opinions, different behaviors, you then get to think, okay, well, I'm attracted to this, I'm not attracted to that, I like this in that person, I didn't like this in that person. Then you start to reflect. I'm like, well, could I deal with that? Could I not deal with that? Is that a negotiable for me? Is that a non-negotiable for me? And you get that data, which you can then analyze, and you should be analyzing. Um, and you just don't get that when you're single because you don't have that exposure. So it's so good to learn about these things. Every new date is information, and you should always treat each date with information, which with data. It's a lot easier said than done because we're human beings, we have emotions, and if you're someone who's avoidant or anxious, then it's gonna be a lot hard for you to just see dates as data and information. And you can read all the books that you can read all the books that there is about relationships, about dating. You can listen to podcasts like this, you can watch Instagram, YouTube's, whatever, but you cannot experience connection unless you're physically with that person, away from this noise of podcasts, away from the noise of everything. Which is why it's so important to date. It's so important to do both, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, read a lot of books, and I've honestly thought I knew exactly what I wanted in a man. But there's certain things you just cannot feel unless you're with that person. And I think safety is one of those things. And dating teaches you so much about like how your body responds and your emotions, which you just cannot get from a podcast, you cannot get from a book. And I think that, yes, you can learn about someone's characteristic traits and behaviors and what you like about them, what resonates with you, what values align with you, what values don't. But ultimately, like, emotions and feelings you can't get unless you're in that dating space and with that person, physically with them. And my recent date has taught me something recently that I have never spoke about on a first date, but I had an incredible relationship with my grandma. I was practically raised by her until like the age of 21, and I have always had such an incredible relationship with her. And I went on a date with someone really connected over like grandparents, but the way he just made me feel, I was able to open up a lot vulnerably about my grandma, because one, we had that connection, but two, just his softness was just beautiful. And it allowed me to open up like that. It allowed me to feel vulnerable, whereas previously I haven't had that experience. And not just on first dates, on like further dates with people, because maybe I didn't have that connection and shared understanding with someone, but also they didn't necessarily create that space for me to feel like I can open up. And I realized that that is so important for me. Whereas previously, I didn't realize that that was important. And it sounds so silly saying this out loud, because of course you should be with someone who allows you to feel safe to open up about things like that. But when you haven't experienced that before, then how do you know that that is important for you? And I think this is dating and connections gives you that. Another benefit of dating is that it exposes you to experiences that you might have never have actually had before, because it is so nice when you go on a date with someone and they suggest a restaurant you might not have ever thought about trying, or an experience or an activity that you would never have thought to go on with your friends. One of my best dates ever, actually, my ex took me on a first ever date to Chester Zoo, and it was just such a nice date. Like, when would I ever, like, personally for me, I just would never have gone to Chester Zoo with my family or my friends. And it was just such a nice date, like just such a fun date. Like, I would probably have I wouldn't have gone there on my own, and it just exposed me to such like a nice experience that I wouldn't have otherwise had as a single woman. Um and even if it's not really like the most romantic date, obviously it worked because he ended up being my boyfriend and I was with him for 4 years at the time. But it just adds so much excitement to your life and just such a nice experience. And that's such like a nice thing about dating. Like, I've been on some lovely dates as well. I've been on some very fine dining luxury dates. I went on a date to the Four Seasons actually here in Thailand, which was lovely. Like, when would I ever go to the Four Seasons by my, like, I would, but like not on a random Wednesday. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just wouldn't do that by myself. And it was a nice experience. Got to try some really good food, really in good company with a guy. And yeah, it was just like, I just wouldn't have done that. Not every end result of a date needs to be a husband. Sometimes you can just be like, you know what, I wasn't really vibing with that person, but I had a really fucking fun time and we had a really good experience, whatever it was doing, because I did something new. And that was actually a date experience that I really enjoyed. Like, I really enjoyed going to a nice restaurant with someone. I enjoyed getting dressed up for that restaurant. I enjoyed being in their company and trying new food, having a nice cheeky little cocktail. Even though it didn't lead to anywhere, but it was a really nice experience still. And also this, the fourth benefit of dating is, I actually touched upon this previously when I talked about like vulnerability on safety, but it allows you to practice that vulnerability. So when you do have experiences that allow you to be a little bit vulnerable and open with someone, like that was such a nice experience for me to be vulnerable and open. I know that I can access that. And yes, they gave me the space to do that, but ultimately it was also me opening up and choosing to be vulnerable. And now I know, I feel a lot more confident in going into future dates to be a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more open. And that is ultimately what's also going to help me in the future have a really good connection, is that vulnerability. So just letting someone in, it's allowed me to let someone in, to practice feeling safe, feeling seen, opening up. And really, like, I'm a human being, and I think there's too many people that in the current modern day are just so shut off from the world and from their emotions and their feelings that we just forget. Like, we're all just human beings, we all have emotions, we all have a desire to feel safe and be seen. And I'm so blessed I had that experience, because I feel so much more confident about just opening up a little bit now in my future dates. I also think that the fifth benefit of dating is that it restores, this is specifically true for women that have had bad experiences, but it restores your faith in dating and in people, even if it's very, very brief. So, in a world where there are so many women out there that have such bad stories, such negative dating stories, such a negative attitude, when we hear good dating stories and positives, we're reminded that good men exist, good people exist, safe conversations exist, and that there are men out there that are capable of giving us what we need and what we want as women, which is ultimately safety a lot of the time. And I would say that in my experience, I've never really had awful dates. Like, I've never really had like a bad or terrible date. I've had like a couple of experiences or things that maybe someone has said that hasn't aligned with me or hasn't resonated. But as a whole, I haven't really had like terrible, terrible dates. Um, a lot of my dates have been good. However, I have had someone ghost me. I have had men disappear. I've had men, like, not communicate properly with me. And I think that's been the biggest thing for me, really, is like men disappearing or like having a connection with someone and it leading to nowhere. And recently I was just absolutely restored in my faith in men, because I obviously went on a date. If you've not listened to the ghosting episode, it's episode 2, go back and watch it. I went on a date, it was a good date, I was going to see the guy again, would have really liked to see him again. He ghosts, he disappears, and then he reappears. And when he reappeared, my anxious attachment was like, he's giving you a crumb, grab the crumb. Like, so like I would have so met up with him again, but I had to just sit there and process it, and I had to reject him. And for me that was really, really hard. But I think what happened is, by rejecting this person and putting my boundary, and I basically showed the universe my worth. It's like, I am not worthy. Like, I'm worthy of a man communicating to me, giving me respect, and being kind to me. I deserve that, and I'm worth that. I'm not, I'm not going to accept behavior like that. And I think, had I accepted that behavior, the universe would have just been like, okay, she thinks that she's worth that. And then I think he would have given me more experiences like that, i.e., more men ghosting me. Like, if I'm accepting a man ghosting me, then surely I'm just going to get more men like that. But I rejected a man ghosting me, and I was like, nope, I'm not going back to a man who ghosts me. And energetically, I also just felt like it was like, I don't know. Our gut knows. Our gut knows. I don't know how to explain it, but it wasn't a connection that I felt like, I don't know, maybe he wasn't genuine, but I didn't feel like I wanted to give this man a second chance for whatever reason it was. It just, my gut just told me not to. My intuition told me not to, and I listened to it. And then obviously, very recently, I had another incredible, beautiful connection with someone, and that person chose not to ghost me. Um, I don't know if we would have continued connecting or not, but life happened and they decided to respectfully communicate with me and just basically tell me that they didn't have the capacity for a connection at that moment in time. And I honestly feel like the reason I attracted a man like that was because I rejected someone who reappeared after ghosting me. And I think now, I think that experience of ghosting kind of really hurt me and triggered me, because I was like, what did I do to deserve this? And I have been used to other men in the past, usually in my childhood, like disappearing after a connection. Although when you're like young, in your 20s or like late teens, like, you don't really say that connection, do you? Like, I think that's something like you say connection as you get older. But anyway, and I think the reason that I rejected him, and I was like, no, I'm not going to accept or tolerate a man who treats me like that. I was then blessed with an incredible man, an incredible connection, who was able to communicate with me. And yes, it still fucking hurt, but it was a different kind of hurt, because I knew that it was nothing to do with me. Um, and it was just life, and life happens. And it also made me think that it is possible for people to still be going through really tough times and still give someone respect that they deserve and the communication that they deserve. And if anything, it just made me think, yeah, like, I respect him, and that's fine, that's happened. um so yeah, I think that experience has just made me think, like, actually, it is possible to still be going through a shit time in your life and actually still communicate with someone, even if it's just very briefly, as to why you can't continue the connection. Okay, another positive of dating is that it can actually lead to friendship and cool friendships. Like, it doesn't always have to be romantic, you know. Sometimes you can go on a date and you're not romantically vibing with the person, but you could just be vibing as friends. And how nice is that? You've gone on a date and you've gained a new mate. Like, what? That's so nice. Not every connection or not every dating experience is meant to give you like a husband. Like sometimes you may get friends. I've been on dates where I met I met someone on Tinder. It was very we didn't really vet each other before meeting up. We went for a coffee, we chatted, and there was no romantic connection or nothing there at all. We were just chatting as if we were friends, and we stayed up staying friends. Like we're still in touch, and it's so nice. Like because we see what we were doing, we're replying to each other's stories and stuff like that, and it's actually really nice. Like I've gained a friend even though I didn't like gain a romantic connection. Another benefit of dating, and this one's going to be so controversial, but I think this is a benefit because it's the biggest way that you can grow and learn in dating, is that you get triggered. Dating triggers you, and that is a good thing about dating. Dating triggers you because it involves you being put in uncertain situations, being put around different behaviors, different types of people that are going to trigger you. That is going to happen. Because especially when you start to like someone, old wounds will come up, old fears will come up, your anxieties will come up, and you will get triggered, and you will have to work on that, whether that's with yourself, just by yourself, or with that person. And you will have to deal with it. You will have to regulate, you will have to practice, because if you don't, you won't be able to take that in and form a successful partnership or relationship in the future. And being triggered doesn't mean there's necessarily wrong with you. It's again information and data. If something has triggered you, why? You then have to sit down with yourself and think about it. Why has that triggered me? And if the person that you are being triggered by is someone you want to continue that relationship with, you're going to have to communicate that with them, and it's going to be such a huge opportunity for growth and development for you as a person, but also with that person in a relationship if you're going to continue it. And it's going to be so healing for you as well. And it happens. I think every single person in the world gets triggered over some things. It's just life. We're all human beings, and we all get triggered, and then we all have to deal with it. And even secure people, they get triggered. But I think the difference is how they deal with it and how they respond to it. And something I find that triggers me a lot, and especially my anxious attachment, is when I start dating someone and I've made a connection and then we might be texting or messaging. I get really triggered by if they haven't replied enough, if they haven't um replied for a few hours, if they aren't messaging me first. Like, I don't know why. I just get really triggered. And it's something I'm always overcoming. And I think in the past, I would have like double texted or been a little bit like, okay, well, they haven't messaged me for a few hours. So I'm just going to play it cool, or I'm going to like be arsy with them and like just be really mean or whatever. And I've just learned that like I need to regulate in that situation. If I'm in a situation and someone hasn't messaged me, I need to sit there and think about it. You know what? Maybe they're just busy. Maybe they're just doing something. And I think this is a lot harder when you start in the initial phases because of dating, because you're not, maybe necessarily, you might not be at that level to communicate that with that person. So with my ex, I was able to communicate that, and I said, listen, when you don't reply to me, when you don't send me a good morning text, when you don't send me a message to say good night, or when you don't message me when you've come home from a night out, I get really anxious. But when you're just starting to date someone, that shit is hard, and you have to then practice regulating that on your own. And it's hard. You have to find ways that work for you. It takes time, but that is a benefit of dating, because then when you do, that connection develops further. Hopefully you've one been able to regulate yourself, so then you're not taking out the anger or whatever you're feeling on the other person, but also hopefully you're able to communicate that with them so they can understand you better. Finally, I'm going to finish off on a really good positive reason about dating, and that is that dating actually keeps your heart open. Guys, I'm such a hopeless romantic, and I nearly closed my heart off. In fact, I have had my heart closed off for such a long time. When I was out of a relationship, dealing with a breakup, dealing with heartbreak, my heart was absolutely closed. But I think dating keeps your heart open, and I think the easiest thing It obviously depends where you are in your stage in your breakup, but I think if you have done a lot of healing and you are dating a little bit, even if you have like a bad or a disappointing experience, and the thing is, you can still have a really good date but be disappointed after. So, like in my situation, I had the most incredible, beautiful date, but I was disappointed after because of the situation around it. Um, and the easiest response for me would have genuinely been to just shut down and be like, no, I'm not dating. No, I'm gonna get hurt again. But I didn't. I kept my heart open. I stayed positive, and I chose to keep going because I need to remind myself that it's just one experience that didn't work out the way that I wanted it to, but that doesn't mean it was a bad experience. It just means it taught me something. And I think hope over fear, hope, gratitude, are always much better emotions than fear. I think if you have fear and negativity and you bring that into dating, you will get that back. You will get negativity back. Whereas if you bring hope, you bring yourself, your authenticity, your heart on your sleeve, you will get that back as well. And I do not want one disappointing experience to stop me from experiencing something beautiful again. And I hope that that is also a reminder for you as well. So, if you are listening right now and you are a woman and you're afraid to open your heart up, I promise you there's so many beautiful benefits of dating. And if you just think about all the things that you can gain, you will honestly always be a winner, even if it is a bad date. So, thank you so much for watching this week's episode or listening. If you're watching on YouTube right now, I would absolutely love it if you could subscribe, give me a little comment, give me a little like. I cannot wait to bring more topics like this in future episodes, and I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. And if you're listening on Spotify, give me a cheeky little follow, just please. That would really help me out so I can continue growing this pod, and leave a cheeky little comment, cheeky little review, so I can talk about more juicy topics like this, because I just love it, and I hope that you're loving it too as well. So thank you so much for watching, thank you so much for being here, and let's finish the podcast episode on our final ritual, which is, what have you done recently to fill your own cup? So I have a really good thing that I've been doing recently, and I've been scheduling time to cry. I know sounds so weird, but actually, my life the past 5 weeks has been absolutely crazy. I was in Sri Lanka for 2 weeks, and I had my friend from home visiting. Then we traveled around a little bit, and in every single hour or minute that I had any time to myself, I didn't really have any time to myself because I was doing work and I was trying to cram in as much work as possible. I I found that, like, I've experienced emotion, like things have made me upset, but I haven't given myself the space and the time to cry. And the emotion always gets stored in your body. Even if you haven't moved it, it will eventually need to move. And I was getting to a point where I was like, I'm feeling that I'm gonna like do something really bad, either have a really bad go at my friend, or like call my mom and tell her I hate her, or something ridiculous like that, but just take it out on people around me, or it's going to impact my work, or I'm going to snap or something, because the emotion hasn't moved and I could feel it. And I was like, I need to schedule time to cry. I need to move this emotion through my body, because your body will always store emotion. It will store trauma, it will store everything. And I was like, you know what? Tonight I'm gonna cry. So got into bed, did my skincare, did my everything. I put on a really sad playlist. I like put my phone away. I prepared a couple of like journal prompts. Put my hand on my heart, and it did take me quite a while because I've actually never done this before, so it was quite unnatural. So it did take me quite a while to sit there and cry, but eventually I just cried, just bawled my eyes out, and it was so healing. So, like, I felt like a release. It was so cathartic and so beautiful. And I hope that this was a reminder for you that if you have not had a good cry for a while, have a good cry. It's so good for you. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next juicy episode of the Pink Juice Pod.